Cool. Glad to see you on my report about living the life and not achieving anything yet. This week was a bit volatile, so I have many points to cover. First of all, let's start with overall systems review and status for each of them, and my two bets, which are Snake CPP and Content Pipeline, are far from being well. For the Snake part, I have a feeling that I do absolutely nothing to write it, and it's not the feeling, it's actually based on the real actions. And for now, it is simply a very ambitious project that I have no idea how to start. My initial idea was this was my initial idea with this was that if I clearly put a name of something that I want, it will be feasible to achieve. Turned out that's not so easy, and from my point of view, this project requires too much to be changed in the same time. Let's say you have three main success factors for project to be successfully done. The first one is that you have to have a right skill. You have to possess the right instrument for the job and so on. The second one is that you have to know the caveats of the domain. So you have to know the architecture and the common pitfalls the engineers have. And the third one is that you have to clearly understand how and why project fits in your current strategy. And from my perspective, that project won't be successful because you have to possess at least two of three factors simultaneously. Um, And from perspective of my own model, my Snake endeavor has only foggy motivation behind it that I maybe want to write games in my own engine. I don't know the tool yet. I really have to learn a lot of C++, and I also have to learn the domain of game engineering overall. I have to learn the architecture of game overall. I have to learn the architecture of game engines, how the graphics work, all the sufficient libraries, and so on. I think the rules there, I kind of have this feeling that rules there are pretty different from what I expect to see in more business oriented program that I'm currently working on. So yeah, I think in terms of this bet, I think it will eventually fail. I still want to do the project though, so now I want to active plan something in the web. My friend gave me an idea of making a simple Bayesian simulator, so maybe I'll try to do it. And what about my content pipeline? Things here are not as grim as with my personal project because I made a task and even wrote something along the way. But these are mostly my thoughts and they are really not the content I was thinking when I bet on content pipeline. Still, there's something to start from. And this week I read a lot about startup strategy and even attempted to somehow digest this knowledge, but the result is mostly for myself, so I do not count it as a good content. Still, I want to share some of my interesting findings regarding this topic mainly for documentary reasons. Maybe someone will find them useful, but again, they're not in a very user-friendly form, to be honest. Um, this all started once again with contemplating journey um, this whole contemplating journey started when I really got exhausted from YouTube. There were a series of bad days at my work, and I was heavily procrastinating on the task needed to be done. During this procrastination phase, I once again had to acknowledge to myself that I like purpose and kind of meaning in life. I know these are kind of ephemerical structures, but that's what it is. I think that there is some sort of black hole that eats me up from inside, and it really don't give me any reasons to leave. I lied in this condition until I eventually ended up on the Healthy Gamer GG channel. I watched a couple of his videos about passion, motivation, meaning in life, and while I've already watched all of these videos before, this time I was more open-minded about his ideas because I already knew what he will be talking about. As usual, there were a lot of good ideas, but main takeaway for me was that you have to architect your passion and meaning for yourself by yourself. You fundamentally cannot rely on finding it outside. This was not an obvious take because I found a note of mine from I think half a year ago when I was arguing quite the opposite. So it was a nice thing to start from, and with this understanding in mind, I began to write my strategy for life. And one resource proven to be particularly useful for like validating the actions you're doing and the results appeared to be the blog of Jason Cohen. I think he's a founder from Texas. So yeah, his takes on what makes a good strategy was very insightful. So now, when I'm developing my own strategy, I want it to be simple, candid, decisive, asymmetric, leveraged, and futuristic. I already learned these qualities because I repeated them once a while for the past 3 days. And while I still can't present something satisfying these qualities yet, at least I now have a grasp on what I'm doing and what are the final qualities of the product I will produce, which is the strategy, of course. My focus point is the thing I want to talk about next, and here things look not so good. I started my last problem on Tuesday and made absolutely no progress since there. I know it sounds stupid, but it just feels wrong. It just feels wrong when I'm solving these problems. Instead of focusing on the result, my brain starts to think about the long-term engineering career and what programming language should I use. Analytically, I understand that the instrument I'll end up using means absolutely nothing, but I still cannot leave this thought alone while solving problems. I tried to solve them in Python. I got a strange feeling. The same was with C Sharp, and JavaScript felt even stranger. The only thing that kind of comes up to my mind when I think about it is that I anticipate that I will be able to write code seamlessly after I understood the constituting parts of the solution. And in order to do that, I have to master the language of choice, and here comes all the bad parts. There are always things that I do not like about the language. For instance, C Sharp is a great language, but its usage outside the Visual Studio and JetBrains Rider is heavily restricted. You simply don't have all the CLI tooling for many integral parts of the solution, which is a unifying kind of object for all your C Sharp project. Python is the great language also. It has a great ergonomics and it's easy to write, but I don't like the syntax without curly braces. I know it sounds stupid, but I can't force myself into loving it. I know that you kind of can write scripts like in Lua, and it absolutely has its own domain in the scientific computing and in analytics and statistics, and I don't hesitate using Python there. But for my project, for the engineering part, I simply do not count Python as a good option, mainly because I don't like the syntax. I don't feel like I'm writing the real, in quote unquote, real programming language. I think it's very stupid, but that's how the things are. The only choice I kind of have left is TypeScript, and to be honest, the only thing that stops me from writing it is that somehow I feel that being a front-end engineer is inherently a bad thing. All the reasons mentioned here are stupid, of course, but at least I was able to kind of articulate them and communicate them, even for myself. One surprise thing that happened during this week was NeoVim. I finally configured it to the working state. It's not my first attempt to begin writing in NeoVim, but this week was special because I finally was able to set up all the plugins, set up the LSP server, and so on. So now I have not a fully, but a rather decent working PDE, so personal development environment. I have configured 3 views there, LSP, some other basic plugins that I kind of don't use, and key bindings. So yeah. Now the only things I miss are the syntax highlighting, which is available through Seater 3-seater that I want to install today, and the ability to turn off LSP server for me writing lead code in my NeoVim editor. And of course, I need dedicated practice time. So yeah. Finally, I want to say that my habits part are doing great. Even when the day is bad, some unstoppable force make me doing every single one of them. So I'm pretty happy and pretty proud that I was able to achieve such great streaks. I also refined the definitions for gold and silver hours. For now, the hour is gold when I've just woke up and haven't breakfast yet. And the silver hour is quite the opposite, is after I have eaten my dinner and before I went to sleep. So yeah, I don't know why I used past simple when I should really be using present simple, but I think it doesn't matter. I haven't experienced the silver hour yet, but the experience of gold hour feels just right. To be honest, I'm writing this right now. I'm reading what I've read, what I wrote, just in my gold hour today. Now that's all I wanted to share about this week. Thanks for tuning in. Wish you a great week and see you soon. Bye bye.